What is up? Welcome to the Week 15 episode of Monday's Hangxiety, your weekly fantasy football therapy session. It only took 4 years and 15 weeks, but finally, Trevor Lawrence and Kyle Pitts look like they were worth that draft capital. Your entire mood today comes down to two questions. Did you play against them? Or did you start them? Are you moving on in the playoffs? Let's talk about it. What is up? Good morning and welcome to Monday's Hangxiety. This is our therapy session. We get together, we celebrate wins, we cry about our losses. No Gator J this week. Ryan Weiss hosting. With me as always, Josh Hudson. Josh, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing pretty damn good. The Eagles, I had to switch my hat back because I said that, they needed to get back on track before I gave them their proper place on top of my head and on our streams. So
yeah, the AJ Brown drama. I said the AJ Brown drama feels years ago.
It's been so fabricated, I'm telling you.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Like, it feels years ago. Everything just kind of feels good unless you're a Devonta Smith manager. But this is kind of the Eagles offense we expected, Josh. Good Jalen Hurts, good enough Saquon Barkley, and then either Goddard or Smith balling out. This week it was Goddard. So.
Yeah, definitely doomed me in one. Can you believe this shit? I have one dynasty team where if I start Dallas Goedert and JJ McCarthy, I win. Like, seriously. What?
I love that I talked myself out of even putting JJ McCarthy on my streaming list because I'm like, yeah, it's Dallas, but he sucks. Nope. Turns out
it's
Dallas.
Remember when everybody is like, yeah, Justin Jefferson's still a top 20 wide receiver because, Dallas's defense fucking sucks. Can we stop with this? JJ McCarthy and Justin Jefferson have zero connection. None.
Yeah.
Couldn't even get in the end zone on a target that hit Jefferson in the fucking hands.
Yeah. It's a problem. That's for damn sure. But hey, at least we got to see a quarterback gritty into the end zone. That's what everybody tuned in
Kevin
for.
O'Connell did not like that one.
No, I imagine he didn't. Also, maybe celebrating when you've had the shit season that JJ McCarthy's had. Maybe all of that is just.
You know what? But also, that's kind of why he should celebrate. Honestly,
that's true too. All right, folks.
Wins when you can get them.
We've been doing this show for 15 weeks. Most of you know the deal by now. All we do is complain. We talk about what happened yesterday. We talk about some of the good, some of the bad. If you need a Monday miracle, drop it into the chat. We'll let you know. And if we think it's going to happen. As always, if you like what you're going to hear, or hopefully you like what you're going to hear, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'll do my big spiel later on, but do all the things you can do to help us be more successful. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, hit that follow button. We do have Super Chat. Monday's not a big day for our Super Chat, but if you want to toss us a couple bucks, we'll get you on the screen right away. We also have a completely free Discord. Josh is dropping the link for you folks right now. If you're not in there, we talk a ton of fantasy everything. Austin drops his cash lineups every week for DFS. A lot of great stuff going on over there. And while I'm about to break down the scores for everybody, let us know who boosted you into the next round, who ruined your entire fantasy season. Drop it for us in the chat. We'll talk about that in the next segment. We go all the way back to Thursday night. The Atlanta Falcons, 29. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 28. Jay skipped today's show just because he did not want to have to discuss what happened in that game. You won't be able to convince me otherwise. Kyle Pitts goes off. Ravens, 24. Bengals, 0. That didn't go the way we thought it was going to go. 31-0, 2 shutouts in the same week. Eagles take down the Raiders, as Josh mentioned. 40-20, Texans put it on the Cardinals. We told you Jacoby Brissett would be a garbage time hero. Jacoby Brissett was a garbage time hero. Chargers 16, Chiefs 13. The reign of terror for the Kansas City Chiefs is officially over. Speaking of which, not so fast to the New England Patriots. Buffalo 35, Patriots 31 in a interesting game. If you're a friend of Joe Zolo, you probably got an earful yesterday. Jaguars beat down the Jets 48-20. Commanders 29, Giants 21. Bears handled business at home 31-3 over the Cleveland Browns. Shadur Sanders comes crashing back down to earth. Saints 20, Panthers 17. New Orleans Saints continue just to mess up those division standings for the NFC South. Great for our friend Hoove too. Rams 41, Lions 34 in what ended up being the game of the week. In the opposite of the game of the week, the Seahawks 18, the Colts 16 in the most boring game of the week. Broncos 34, Packers 26, 49ers 37, Titans 24. And last night, as we mentioned, JJ McCarthy takes the win in Dallas. Definitely not the Dak Prescott we expected to see in that game. 34-26, the Vikings win that one. Week 15 wraps up tonight with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Miami Dolphins. And Josh, from every comment I'm seeing, so many fantasy lives hang in the balance on what we are going to see from specifically DK Metcalf tonight.
So and I've got a couple. I went through in one league and I sat DK and started Christian Watt, and I went back and forth on that one because I'm like, I know Watson's going against Surtain. I think he can break off at least one big play. And my worry is with the weather in Pittsburgh right now, Rodgers isn't going to want to push the ball downfield, and that's where they target DK. So I was like, I don't see the volume. I feel like last week was an aberration. You don't get points for last week. That's what kept going through my head. So I started Christian Watson. Of course, he gets hurt, kind of puts up good, and I'm like, fuck. So I need a little over 16 in half PPR from Devon Achane to advance.
It's all going to come down to whether they need
two leagues where Devon Achane is like the guy that's keeping me afloat here. And I'm like, come on, baby. You've been doing it all season. Let's go.
Actually, let's throw this up right away. Fantasy Lab says Jaylen Warren downgraded to questionable tonight. So make sure we're paying attention to that. That's definitely not a good one. I already won the league because of Kyle Pitts, but I am starting Kenny Gainwell in a league tonight. So
I was going to say I have one where it's going to be close too. And I think that's another one where I need DK to suck because my opponent has DK. I have Jaylen Warren and Kenny Gainwell. Like those, I'm just depleted at running back, and I had to start both. So
yeah,
it's gonna be rough.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with Warren. I did not see that he got a late downgrade. That's never a good thing. You know what? Let's get to the chat first. So I'm gonna jump into the chat, and then we're gonna talk about some of the biggest duds from this week. So Jonathan Santiago got us started before we were even on air. He says he lost Patrick Mahomes. He has Brock Purdy, but Brissett is still on waivers. Would we drop Purdy for Brissett? If this is not a keeper league, you're dropping Mahomes for Brissett. He's done. It's torn ACL. So,
yeah, I mean, that's the other side of it. Look, Brock Purdy did great. That's kind of what we talked about this week or heading into this week was Purdy's got a great matchup against Tennessee. There's 203 touchdowns written all over it. He went 267 and 3 touchdowns.
Absolutely.
Brissett, it's a tough matchup. I don't want to play him, blah, blah, blah.
Garbage time.
How many times have we told you Brissett does not give a shit? Brissett is going to do Brissett things.
I mean,
and
Josh,
he had 3 touchdowns this week, not even 2.
Putting it bluntly, Josh, looking it over, Josh Allen, Jacoby Brissett. Those are the 2 quarterbacks you want in the
since
fantasy
week 9.
Right, yeah,
those are the top 2 quarterbacks since week 9. Yeah. I don't know how much more we can say. Start Brissett. Like, it's written in stone at this point.
Zach, I see your latest comment. That's going to come up later in the show. I just want to point that out. But Jonathan does bring a way more interesting question up. Drop Mahomes, by the way. I'm assuming that's not Dynasty. Drop Mahomes, get Jacoby Brissett. He's done. He is holding Waller because we were very insistent that people hold Darren Waller for week 16. Josh, we may have some egg on our face. We'll get to that in part of this question. Do we think Colby Parkinson, after his great week 15, or Jawan Johnson, who's been slow and steady, wins the race, are better with their teams? So the reason this question is now being asked is we were all in, Josh, as you mentioned, Isaiah Likely, goose egg, Mark Andrews, nothing. All of a sudden, for the first time this season, the Cincinnati Bengals cover the tight end. Colby Parkinson benefits from Devontae Adams going down, which is likely going to be what we see again on Thursday. So, Josh, how are we ranking? Let's just call it these 3 tight ends. How are we ranking them heading into week 16?
I think I'm going to go Parkinson, Waller, and Johnson. I think that's where I'm going to go. And it's not because I think that Cincinnati is suddenly good against tight ends. It has nothing to do with that. Since he does travel to Miami, which I'm paying very close attention to this because I just lost Patrick Mahomes in a dynasty league where I just traded you 2 first-round picks to get him.
Yep.
So I'm like praying to God Tua does great. So I kind of need Waller to do well.
Yeah.
But the way that Sean McVay and this Rams offense are using these 12 and 13 personnel setups, not just around the goal line either, by the way.
Nope.
Like they're using them all over the field. Not having Devontae Adams is going to make Parkinson that much more viable within this offense. Of course, you run the risk that, maybe McVay decides to run it in with Kyron Williams or Blake Corum or whatever, but Parkinson has kind of been that dude for them. And
3 weeks running now.
Paying attention to it.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of works for his benefit.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, Rams offense over Dolphins offense. So.
Well, all day. Now, here's the thing. Rams get Seattle next week. Seattle has struggled against tight ends as well. Obviously, none of that came to fruition this week, but it was one of the reasons we thought Tyler Warren.
Stafford isn't a 44-year-old grandfather. He's only a 37-year-old dad.
And then they get Atlanta in 2 weeks. Miami, the only reason you care. Well, I mean, Miami does have Tampa Bay in week 16. I think what happens tonight with Waller is also going to be a big indicator on this question. If he's heavily involved tonight, that kind of brings him back up into this argument.
That's fair. Also, revenge game. Colby Parkinson, former Seahawk. Just
there you go. We all know that Colby Parkinson gave his heart and soul to the Seattle organization. Shut the fuck up. What do we got here? Our team's starting to purposefully kick away from the Jets. With the return yards because they've been just great. I guess I don't understand the question. Their QB.
So the way that I'm reading this is that Jonathan's league values return yardage.
And I'm guessing we're talking about maybe defense and special teams.
Yeah, because that's really the only way the Jets are scoring points these days.
Ain't that the damn truth?
Look, when a team shows that they can do good things on punt returns, kick returns, whatever, teams will typically kick away from them. Like, why would you let a good part of a team beat you when you could easily just force the bad part of the team, i.e. the Jets offense, to force them to do something, and clearly they can't. So
yeah. Zach says all he needs is the Pittsburgh kicker to not get 7 or 8 points. Boswell can do it, but he has been very hit or miss this season. So
yeah, that game is going to be really interesting tonight. I'm really curious to see how well the Steelers defense shows out without TJ Watt. Because that's a big thing here. TJ Watt is out. We've seen kind of hit or miss Pittsburgh defense all season. This is also a team that hasn't lost at home on Monday Night Football in over 30 years. So,
Jesus.
Yeah, there's that. So, and again, you talk about Dolphins going up north, playing in colder weather. That doesn't usually bode well for
terrible for McDaniel and Tua together. So,
but this team has leaned on the running game so much that it may not matter.
Yep.
Like Tua's yards per attempt has cratered this season. He's down to 6 when in years past he's been up above 8. Yeah. So this just goes to show you this is a very different Dolphins team, which was what I talked about in the offseason when this is what they wanted to do was get more physical and go away from this small guy speed offense. Like they're still doing aspects of that because Devon Achane is that good, but they're leaning on that running game and letting the big guys up front control the tempo of the game.
For sure. Zach said, what a fucking call by us on Trevor Lawrence. We brought him back from 60. And Josh, we don't always get it right. And the next question is going to kind of lean into that a little bit. We don't always get it right. But we told motherfuckers, it was my stream of the week. We knew this was the matchup. I'm not going to pretend in my wildest dreams that 6 touchdowns was on the fucking docket. But Trevor Lawrence balling out. We're going to get to that just a little bit later. But I do want to illustrate. We'll celebrate that win. But Josh, I couldn't have got T-Law over Dak in my rankings. And I was even trying to pour water on Dak by saying Minnesota's been good against quarterbacks. But y'all pointed out, and I'm not trying to blame you and Joe.
This was totally Joe. He was the one that got me on it.
Okay. He's not here to defend himself.
Exactly.
Joe beat us to the ground that it's Dallas at home and Dak Prescott's a different guy. And Keenan, I don't know if this was our advice that fucked you over here. I'm sorry. But regardless, Josh, this is one of those things where how far do you move a streaming quarterback up your rankings? And that is always a hard decision.
Yeah. And again, this is why I was on the Trevor Lawrence train, was simply because this isn't just a matchup thing for him. He's been a top 5 quarterback for the last month of the season.
Yeah.
So like this is kind of been where we should be looking at him, right? And so, again, looking at Dak, Minnesota's defense can be really hit or miss. They do give up a lot of big plays, but they weren't taking shots with CeeDee Lamb. They weren't taking a lot of shots with George Pickens. Like Pickens, I think, only had 30-something yards this game.
Yeah.
Javonte Williams went out midway through, or really right after the touchdown drive in the first quarter, and didn't come back till after halftime with, I believe it was a chest injury or something. And so, there was just a lot of weirdness in this game, but you saw how bad that Dallas defense was.
Yep.
Plain and simple. They just couldn't stop anything. They handled the run okay, which is kind of what they've been doing since they got Quinnen Williams, but you could throw all over them. And that's what they were doing. They took deep shots with Jordan Addison, and
they shut down the run.
They shut down the run, exactly.
Except for JJ
McCarthy. They couldn't get any pressure on JJ McCarthy. Like, if that doesn't tell you how bad that defense is, I don't know what to say. And again, if your bad defense is going to give up points to a suspect offense, your offense, as in a Dak Prescott-led offense, needs to be able to pick up the slack. And for whatever reason, they couldn't.
Yeah. Charlene says, Brissett or bust.
Thank you. Somebody gets it.
Yep. I mean, it's definitely been the mantra of Club Fantasy since week 8. Like, we caught on pretty quickly that Jacoby Brissett was it. My biggest worry was Kyler coming back? And when they announced he was not, it was wheels the fuck up. We buy, sell homes morning. Non-PPR, should we be worried about Rashee Rice with no Mahomes? Yes, absolutely. You should be worried about this entire team. Again, Josh, I go back to the joke I made about them sitting Mahomes. They're going to start sitting other people as well. This is a nothing season now. So
yeah, might need to be firing up Tyquan Thornton on the waiver wire this week.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't get murdered by a safety over the middle. And
and who's their backup quarterback? Gardner Minshew. He loves him a hospital ball, let me tell you.
Yeah, I'd say Gardner Minshew throws a hospital ball. Gardner Minshew with negative fantasy points this week, folks. Not that he played a ton, but definitely not a good thing. Let's go ahead and put the chat on break real quick. I know you guys are continuing to fill it up, but we're going to move on to our first segment of the show. We do things a little bit differently as we get into the fantasy playoffs. We call it Pour One Out. RIP to your fantasy season. If you started these guys, I made a list of people who did really, really terribly, but were highly rostered. So Josh started the list. Joe Burrow, 5.5 fantasy points. We need to talk. Patrick Mahomes, only 13 fantasy points. Not as bad as Burrow, but bad. And we're not blaming in the injury. That was at the end of the game. Jahmyr Gibbs, 9.8 fantasy points, which is not terrible unless you're averaging 22 fantasy points on the season. Kenneth Walker in that great plus matchup, 2.9 fantasy points. I threw Bam Knight on here only because he went negative. Yes, he was injured, but still negative fantasy points for a guy who may have been started in some leagues. Justin Jefferson, 4.2 fantasy points. Who saw that coming, Josh? George Pickens, 6.3 fantasy points. Ladd McConkey, 4 fantasy points. Tyler Warren, 4.9 fantasy points. Jake Ferguson, 3.6 fantasy points. And Josh, I also listed 3 defenses in here that all could have been played this past week with negative fantasy points. The Rams, -1. The Patriots, -1. And the Detroit Lions, -5 fantasy points in ESPN basic scoring.
Yeah, I know that we had some questions about Rams and Patriots, and, we said, fire them up, etc. So.
Yeah, they're good defenses.
Yeah, right. Look, we got to talk Joe Burrow. I mean, if you told me later on
in the show, so I'm gonna save some of mine because I'm
all right. That's fine. I'm gonna vent a little bit because
about this week.
If you had told me that 2 teams got shut out in week 15, and one of them was the Cincinnati Bengals, I would have had you drug tested.
Yep, against the Ravens,
because this is. When you look at that press conference from earlier this week, Joe Burrow just looks defeated. Like that is what he came like. And even Jamar Chase was talking like, I have never seen Joe Burrow like that.
Yeah.
That is worrisome behavior from whether it's how he's translating this season, how he's looking at his career, his life, whatever. Look, Jamar Chase is legitimately worried. I'm worried. That's his best friend. Like,
yeah,
something needs to happen. But holy fuck.
Well, again, I'm gonna save for what I want to say for later, but mainly about this week, Josh. 4 turnovers in the last 2 games. Last week, at least, he was able to knock it out with 4 touchdowns. This week, no touchdowns, 2 turnovers. Charlene points out Likely and Yoshi Voss with goose eggs. That whole game, Josh, was a fantasy disappointment.
Yeah, it really was. Like, I mean, we thought it was going to be similar to Rams and Lions. Like,
we really did.
It was going to be over. It was going to be, 24-28 or 35-31 or whatever it would be, and nothing. 24 from Baltimore, and that was it.
I want to quickly throw up, Josh. I don't know if we're going to talk about more players in this section, but Trey Daubert, friend of the show, who was down on this running back class from the beginning. I didn't put Ashton Genty and Omari Hampton on this list, Josh, but they each scored like 8 fantasy points. The only reason I didn't put them on this list is because you weren't expecting them to do shit this week. But Trey brings up a point. Maybe we got to be careful how much we're anointing these rookies, though I would still give pushback. The Raiders might be more culprits here than Ashton Genty's talent.
I was going to say that this to me is so much more the Raiders than it is Ashton Genty. Trey was very much on the Travion Henderson train. Love Travion Henderson. Love him. Didn't get a ton of pushback from me, but they were just built very differently, plain and simple, right? You are seeing now what happens when a good environment matches good talent.
Oh, 100%.
That's why Travion Henderson, if you take what he's done over his last 5 games over a full or last 7 games over a full season, he'd be on pace for over 1,500 rushing yards.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. Okay. I think it's interesting that we're seeing kind of that shakeout in this draft class. Omari Hampton hasn't been bad. Injuries kind of hurt him, but he was in a good environment. He looked good. Travion Henderson, it took time. He's in a good environment. He looked good. The 2 other ones from this class, Josh, Ashton Genty and Quinshon Judkins. Quinshon Judkins has been the most average dude ever, even with
the he's had flashes.
Yeah.
And you've seen those flashes when the matchup is there, or when the stars just align and the Browns offense actually looks, like the high-powered college offense, right? Like, it's just kind of like there's something there, but clearly the environment needs to get better.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not going to bury Ashton Genty, but Daubert was very, very much right about how the rookies shook out this season. Josh, when we look at these other ones, we've kind of beat this Joe Burrow thing, this Justin Jefferson thing against the head. George Pickens, it happens sometimes when you're the QB2. I think the 2 I want to ask about moving forward are the tight ends, because there are some really good streaming options out there at tight end, Josh. Tyler Warren, there were enough red flags in this matchup that some people may have moved on. But we also were like, hey, Phillip Rivers loves a tight end and Seattle can't cover a tight end. Well, they did pretty damn good this matchup. And Jake Ferguson, you pointed out a week ago, Josh, has not been the same guy he was when the season started.
Yeah, when CeeDee Lamb plays, Jake Ferguson's an afterthought, plain and simple. His yardage totals have been extremely low. Didn't even have, I think he didn't even have 3 catches this game. Like, it was not good at all. So I just kind of, again, like, I think he does better if we get normal at home Dak Prescott, but you run into a good defense and sometimes this kind of stuff happens. But I don't know. Like, here's the problem though. You were probably starting Isaiah Likely over Jake Ferguson, right? How'd that work out for you? Not great.
I wouldn't have went that far. I had Ferguson ahead, but like you said,
but that's my
3-point difference.
There's very few other streaming guys that you probably would have started over Ferguson.
Well, I was going to say, like, Theo Johnson didn't pop this week like we wanted him to. Like, a lot of the streamers did not pop at all this week.
I was down on Dallas Goedert just because I figured it would have been everybody else's game. That cost me in a couple leagues.
As soon as I saw them run that little shovel pass one time, I was like, it's a Goddard game.
Yep.
Like, the second they call that play once, they're calling it the rest of the game.
Yep, pretty much.
We're going to get back to the chat. Those are the folks who let us down. You guys have given us a bunch. We'll get back to the chat in just a moment. But Josh, let's kick this thing off with Man of the Hour. He's on the thumbnail. It's time to talk about the man, the myth, the fucking legend, Trevor, 6 touchdown Lawrence. I was joking with Donovan yesterday. My son Donovan does not care about football. And he just walked in the room. I was like, shit, can you believe Trevor Lawrence today? And he's like, oh my God, yeah, I heard. Like he didn't know at all. And I was like, I told him, 6 touchdowns. He's like, is that a lot? Because again, my son doesn't care. I was like, yeah, it's like 3 times what he normally does. And then later on in the day,
I love Donovan.
Well, later on in the day, he goes, Trevor Lawrence touched many of the downs. And I was like, yes, that's exactly what he did. I love that. And I'm using it on the show tomorrow. So that's Trevor Lawrence touched many of the downs in week 15.
44.3 fantasy points, 330 yards, 5 touchdowns passing, 5 carries for 51 yards and a touchdown. Look, he's been the QB4 the last month of the season. I talked about it on Wednesday. I've been talking about it for the last couple of weeks. This was a cake matchup against the terrible Jets defense. We should have seen good Trevor Lawrence in this game. And we got godlike Trevor Lawrence in this game. We did have some concerns that maybe he wouldn't be needed, that maybe this would be a big Travis Etienne game. Which, hey, guess what? It was also a big Travis Etienne game.
Hey, Ryan got a 2 touchdown call right.
There you go. But this is what I want to point out. How many quarterbacks this season have put up 6 touchdowns in a game?
1, right?
1. It was Josh Allen.
Yeah, 3.
Now it's Trevor fucking Lawrence reaching Josh Allen heights.
Just as we knew.
This is the generational prospect that we've been waiting for.
This 1 week.
This is sunshine from Remember the Titans, baby.
Well, like I said, Josh, we don't talk Thursday on this show, but to get Lawrence and Pitts to pop in the same, if you started Trevor Lawrence and Kyle Pitts, you might have won your fantasy matchup if you started nobody else this
right? Week. Or paired Trevor Lawrence with Trey McBride, which I did against you in a dynasty league.
Yeah, and beat my ass.
Look, all this to say, Liam Cohen is a god. Like, straight up. This man is a QB fixer, apparently.
Yeah. You got to give the man credit, that's for sure.
He's getting hot at the right time. They're trying to fend off the Texans, who won't lose after losing the first 3 in the season. They need to do everything they can to stay ahead of them. And right now, they're doing it. But, mind you, for all the good that we've just said, Trevor Lawrence, 44.3 fantasy points in week 15. The most fantasy points a quarterback has scored this season.
Wow.
Put some respect on that man's name.
Well, Josh, let's get to it. Fantasy Labs. Do we start him next week against the Denver Broncos? Jordan Love wasn't terrible. He wasn't good.
So remember on Wednesday when people were asking about Trevor Lawrence and Jacoby Brissett, and we said, you know what would be really smart is if you grab both of them and start Jacoby Brissett in week 16. That's how you do it, folks.
So yeah, it's going to depend on your other options there, Fantasy Lab. I'm not even going to put a bow on Trevor Lawrence. Everybody knows what he did yesterday, but he definitely deserved the thumbnail. Josh, the chat is backed up like crazy. I do see some new names in the chat, so let me quickly say we will get to every question. You just may be waiting a while. I'm going to be very honest with you. We are 23 questions in the can right now, so we're going to knock out some now before we move on to segments. Keenan said his bigger waivers priority in another league is Mike Evans. Not even sure how he wasn't on someone's roster. That tells me that league did not have IR.
Or is not very active, one or the other. Holy goodness.
I wanted to talk Mike Evans up later in the show, but always good to see my guy come back and do Mike Evans type things. That was a fun one. Speaking of Mike Evans type things, do we think Drake out London comes back next week? Josh, I've been debating this question for a while. It just, to me, doesn't sound like he's all that close to being back. So,
yeah, I mean, he's already missed 4 weeks. I think a come from behind win is a good thing. You know,
keeps
maybe
them in the playoff contention.
No, they've already been eliminated.
Okay, I must have my records confused. Okay.
So, which again, just kind of makes me think that the team's probably just going to ride it out and let Kyle Pitts just keep balling, because right now he's become the focal point of that offense with Bijan Robinson. The only reason that gives me a little bit of hope is because they didn't put him on IR.
Yeah.
But also, how many people have we seen not go on IR that miss 8 to 10 fucking weeks?
Weird year for IR people. Let's say that.
So weird. So weird. All to say, I would not count on it until I actually get a report that says he's going to play.
Yeah, as someone who is on a bye this week and lost Devontae Adams, I need Drake London back next week, but I still don't know that I have the courage to start him next week.
So. Yeah, I could use Drake London back.
You just got that one over me. Now you need him.
Yeah, and now I'm losing basically Rashee Rice to fucking noodle arm Gardner Minshew. So
yeah. The Gardner Minshew love has left. No matter how much I look like Gardner Minshew, I don't think we can be as supportive on this show as we have been in the past. Jamie, advancing in the Club Fantasy Listener League. I will not be advancing after the shit talking I did to one Faith Enos. I lost the bye week last week when our good friend, I'm blanking on everybody's names, Lewis beat my ass last week and stole the bye week from me. But then I got to play Faith. So I made a heinous comment in the chat that it's still kind of like I have a bye week. Faith is basically doubling me up in points now. And so she jumped in the chat last night and was like, just circling back to this. I was like, I just need 100 points from Devon Achane. I'm not out of it quite yet. So, shout out to Faith for giving me a drubbing in the Club Fantasy Listener League.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Matty Randoms lost both leagues. He's out. Shit happens.
Sucks.
I don't know. Sometimes I think I would enjoy the breath of fresh air of being out. But anyway, Jaden Higgins, Isaiah Likely, Browns defense. Josh, I put way too much faith in the Browns defense as bad as they looked last week. Kareem Hunt, Jalen Warren, just what a season. He says he'll be back. Terminator meme. That's right. It's all about next season now.
Sometimes these things happen. I was talking with one of our other listeners on Twitter, and she just ran into, players getting injured like during the games, like, the worst. Losing Woody Marks, losing, there was one other one. I can't remember, we were telling her to go Dak over Burrow, which, worked out, but still wasn't great because Dak sucked.
Yep.
But yeah, just, sometimes shit happens. Like, I hate to say it. Like there's still a large part of this fantasy football game that we play that is luck, because you're dealing with sources that you can't control, plain and simple. You can't control how somebody's going to play a game. So
1,000% true. Charlene said she's starting Gainwell. We talked about that earlier, and too, fingers crossed. I like Kenny Gainwell this week. We'll see how it plays out. Would have survived getting pitted if Etienne, Henderson, and Purdy didn't go crazy. Yeah, Keenan, it sounds like you played against the lineup from hell. That's terrible. At least
so I have one league, and it's one of our writers, Chris Molina. He started it up, and I'm facing one of his close friends. I started way down because he had Kyle Pitts, and I was like, motherfucker. And I got nothing out of Bucky Irving. So I go through, I get 3 touchdowns from James Cook, 2 touchdowns from Travion Henderson. I get a killer game from Trey McBride. Chris Olave shines through, and I'm like, okay, maybe I'm right back in this. Sunday night, he's got Dak and CeeDee Lamb, and I'm heading into it. I'm like, motherfucker. They were pedestrian.
Yeah.
I've got a chance. I got one more that I'm waiting on. I can't even remember who it is off the top of my head, but no, he's got DK. So I think I'm up like 11. I think
I need DK to ball to move on in Scott Fishbowl. I'm currently 546 in Scott Fishbowl with DK going. So need to hit that top 500. So
yeah, I do have DK in Scott Fishbowl as well. And I was like, yeah, but I mean, the way that scoring is in Scott Fishbowl, he can go under 11 normal points and still get me like 20 in Scott Fishbowl. So
very true.
I think that'll put me. I haven't even looked where the scoring is at, but I've already scored 287. So I think I should be.
You're close. You should be pretty close. I'm at 260 and I'm 11 points out. So you're probably about 10 points good right now, if I had to guess. I love this from Fantasy Lab. Parkinson should be a top 5 waiver pickup with Devontae being questionable and trending out. Josh, I've been saying this for a while. Teams don't tend to change their game plan for Thursday football. What we saw last week is very likely what we're going to see this week, which means Parkinson's going to be heavily involved.
Agreed.
Frosty played Watson over BTJ.
That's Frosty, I'm sorry about that one, buddy.
Yeah, but here's the thing. What statistic would have told you not to do that? What statistic made that Brian Thomas Jr. was finally going to pop because Trevor Lawrence popped out of his mind, and then Watson getting hurt? Like, everything just shook out terribly in that.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely look at the matchup that Watson had as a deterrent. But again, like BTJ has been so pedestrian this year. And he finally outscored Jacoby Myers. Like, it only took how many weeks since the trade deadline?
Yeah.
Like, I just, that's rough, dude. I'm sorry, man.
Early defense and special teams question. Bills, Chiefs, Chargers, and Saints. And someone else asked if we should be pivoting away from the Chiefs. Trying to bring my schedules up here. So Chiefs have Tennessee. I don't know that I'm going to fully pivot away, Josh. Bills have Cleveland. I think they're a decent start. They looked better this week than what we expected them to. Being the Bills, certainly not the Browns. Who are the other two?
Chargers and Saints.
Chargers and Saints. Chargers get Dallas. Saints get the Jets. It's the Saints, and it's not close. That offense has nothing.
Yeah, that offense has nothing. I still would worry about the Bills against the Browns. That feels like such a letdown game for them after a big win against New England. Chargers against Dallas. I think that's in Dallas, right?
Hold on. That is on my thing. Chargers are at Dallas. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. Chargers defense has been on one. And I know that like they're the slimmest of playoff chances for Dallas, or they're like 1%. They literally need to win their next 3 games, and Philly needs to lose their next 3 for them to get in. I don't know. Something tells me that Chargers defense is going to come out firing just to put the nail in the coffin.
Chargers look good. Honestly, anybody but the Bills on here, I'm fine with starting, but I'm going to lean Saints against the Jets. Cam Jordan's still getting after the quarterback. I'm okay with them this week. And they slowed Carolina down enough for the win, obviously. So
yeah, they played with some heart. Good for them.
Yep. Fantasy Lab said Trevor Lawrence for Jackson Dart. It was kind of a toss-up, Josh. Those were 2 players we really liked this week.
I was going to say, and Dart really wasn't terrible.
Yeah.
He ended up with 2 touchdowns. He just... I think that the team is really trying to rear him back from running so much, and I think that's kind of what's killing his fantasy value.
But Lab took down the win with that garbage time catch from CeeDee Lamb to win the game by less than 1/10 of a point.
Hell, I was thinking about that too, because again, like I'm playing one matchup where the guys got CeeDee and Dak, and I'm like, man, if that one catch right there at the end makes it so much harder for me to get in, I'm going to be so pissed.
I saw somebody who lost with the meaningless Brandon Aubrey field goal and lost a matchup because of that, because obviously people were starting Aubrey.
Yep.
Number 1 seed in the Made League benched Travion Henderson 5 minutes before the game to play Woody Marks instead.
George.
Yikes. Oh, I don't think it's him. I think it was someone else did it. So.
Oh, okay.
But regardless, that's a
gracious.
rough bench. I did something similar a few weeks ago. I can't remember who it was, but sometimes those last minute tinkerings bite you in the ass. Frosty said he had a league where he benched Pitts but had McBride and Henderson. So now the real question is, Frosty, are you going a 2 tight end lineup in the next round of the playoffs?
You know what? If there's no Drake London, I am fine with it.
Yeah, ain't that the damn truth? Fantasy Lab said if Brissett finished top 12, it'll be his 7th week in a row. I think he's certainly top 12 at 20 points.
There were 13 quarterbacks this week that finished over 20 fantasy points.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And Brissett actually was QB 12.
Okay. And
so, I don't know that Rodgers or Tua is going to beat him this week. So
Andy said, but even if only one of them beats him, he'll be the first top 14 quarterback the Texans have allowed all season. So
I'm saying, like, and then this was what I was talking about on Saturday when I was like, we're still starting Michael Wilson, people.
Yep.
Like Houston is not unbeatable. They've allowed, like, yes, it was one quarterback that's only thrown for 250 yards against them. And it was Josh Allen, right? Like, it's Josh Allen. You expect that. Matthew Stafford had 245 against them. No quarterback has thrown for more than 2 touchdowns against them. Guess what? Jacoby Brissett did both.
Yep.
264 and 3 touchdowns. They've only allowed 3 100-yard wide receivers this season. One of them was Khalil Shakir.
Yeah.
Michael Wilson didn't get that, but he still scored 16 fantasy points. Like, garbage time is the basis of what we build our fantasy lineups around, people. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Zach says, real questions, where does Kyler go? Josh, I was thinking about this a little bit yesterday. If Pete Carroll sticks around, Kyler feels Russell Wilson-esque and feels like he'd be a fit with the Raiders.
Yeah,
doesn't even need to change time zones.
Yeah, right. I don't know. I'm kind of struggling with this one because I think this is going to be a situation where executives hold on to their scouting reports from when they were scouting Kyler back in college.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been in college in 8 years.
Nope.
Like at a certain point,
very different.
You've got enough on tape that tells you who and what Kyler Murray is. But coaches are egotists, plain and simple. They think they can fix anybody because their system works.
Ain't that the truth?
And I just don't.
And you can't convince me Pete Carroll isn't one of the biggest egos.
Yeah, right. But I think a lot of it's going to be, do we think he sticks around? Because
there's that too.
This is like he came into this season coaching to win. And there was nothing on that roster outside of Brock Bowers, Max Crosby, and then getting Ashton Genty that would make you think that the Raiders had any conceivable chance of competing, especially in the AFC West.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to see that, which tells me, bro, you got problems if you can't see how bad this team is.
Didn't they extend Geno? Didn't they?
Yeah, they gave him a 3-year deal. But the way that it was structured, it was all in this year.
Yeah, where they can get out.
So they could very easily get out of it this year. But again, what quarterback are they bringing in? Maybe it's Kyler, sure, and you go the veteran route again, which if you stick with Pete Carroll, that makes sense. He's not going to want to stick around to, grow a rookie quarterback, et cetera, especially when there aren't really a lot of good rookie quarterbacks coming into this league. Let's be honest here. This is a very weak
that for a while.
Class.
Yeah, it's
so
college.
It's going to be interesting what veterans are available. I wouldn't be surprised if Mac Jones in San Francisco is available. Kyler obviously being one of those guys. Tanner McKee with the Eagles is going to get a lot of looks with how he's looked in the preseason the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And then, of course, filling in for Jalen last year. Those are just the ones off the top of my head, but there's definitely some other ones for sure.
Yeah. George said in another league, the number 1 seed lost after having Gibbs, JT, and Josh Allen because they faced Lawrence, McBride, Hendo, and Amon-Ra, who also had a wonderful game.
So I was talking with one of our writers in a guillotine league that we're in. So we're down to the last 4 weeks, and there's this one team that is absolutely stacked. I mean, like Jonathan Taylor, JS. Actually, no, I have Taylor in that one. I got to pull up this lineup because it is unreal how crazy stacked it is. And the whole talk the entire week was, how are we going to get this team out of the playoffs? Lamar Jackson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Christian McCaffrey, Jamar Chase, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Trey McBride, George Pickens, and Rashee Rice.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Like, that's a lineup that you're just like, fuck. I need 12 fantasy points from Devon Achane, and that team gets chopped.
There you go. You love to see it.
Because I also had him on St. Brown.
Yeah. Frosty points out Tony Pollard putting up more points than CMC and Jettis this week. I'll give CMC a little latitude because he's injured, but I'm going to also take our L here, Josh. We said don't read into this Tony Pollard thing. Apparently, the Titans are deciding to run a real offense for the last 4 weeks of the season. So
yeah, right. Firing their coach and then bringing in a old school OC who just wants to run the football, and because they got nothing else to lose. Yeah.
We buy homes. Quarterback question: CJ Stroud taking on the Raiders. Dak versus the Chargers. Josh,
the way the Chargers have been playing, I have zero issue going CJ Stroud right now.
I was gonna say, I think
especially with Woody Marks hurt and Nick Chubb hurt, they have no choice but to throw the football.
Nico Collins is uncoverable. Dalton Schultz is playing great football. CJ Stroud looks like he's going to come on and win some people in the league. Zach, I think is it Zach for both questions? Yeah, Zach, I'm going to save both of your comments. Your Mahomes comment's going to come up in the very next section, and then your Burrow comment I'm going to save for a later section as well. Quincy lost to first place. Clearly, this is not Quincy's undefeated team where he is first place by 4 points because his kicker gave him 0, whereas their kicker had 20 points. Quincy got knocked out of the playoffs because of a kicker, Josh. I know that gives you a shaking my head emoji as well. So,
yeah, this is why I hate kickers. But you know what? I mean, this could literally happen at any position. So it is what it is. I mean,
yeah, roll of the dice.
Look, if you decided, you know what, I'm streaming Isaiah Likely because of a dream matchup, you would have run into the same problem. So.
Or if you built all of your DFS lineups around Mark Andrews or Isaiah Likely because of a dream matchup. So
exactly. So it happens.
Frosty, is Judkins even startable anymore? I mean, Josh, he feels like he's 5 fantasy points. He doesn't catch the ball. They don't throw him the ball. And if he doesn't score, he's completely worthless. And when are we really going into a Browns game being like, they're going to score this week?
Well, and I mean, I've been saying this about Judkins for 2+ months. Like, this is what he is. He's 7 to 9 point floor. And if he scores a touchdown, he's an RB2 because he doesn't catch passes. Like, that's his role in this offense.
I'm going to actually let George cut the line real quick. First and foremost, we all have kind of differing opinions on this. I am not. I am very pro kickers. I am extremely pro team defense. I always say it's because I got my start in this industry talking team defense. Joe Zolo, not with us right now, very anti-team defense and wants IDP in all of his leagues. And then Josh, you're kind of in the middle there. I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind team defense. Though this is kind of my thing. Like, you know, I played redraft for so many years. Then when I finally got turned on to Dynasty, and a vast majority of Dynasty leagues do not have kickers and they do not have defense. Like, they focus strictly on, you know, your skill position players.
Yep.
And just playing in so many Dynasty leagues over the last, 5, 6, 7 years, it's kind of made me realize that, like, it's just easier to not have them because of the variance that they provide.
A lot of variance.
But also, like, that's kind of what brings out the chess matches, right? Like, it makes you think, and you want to be proactive. You want to think a couple of weeks ahead. You want to pay attention to weather reports for kickers and those types of things. But I think that's kind of why they invented best ball. So you could take a lot of that out of it and just, so there's pros and cons to it. I mean, look, because I play in so many leagues, I don't want to have to stress about kickers and defenses. Like, just let me play the matchups with my, skill position players. But if I was only playing in, like, 3 to 5 leagues, I'm fine with it because I have the time to play those chess games.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I've always likened it because predicting kickers and defenses is just as hard as predicting anything else. I call it the dice roll. I'm a board game guy. I don't mind throwing that dice out there and seeing what I get out of those 2 positions every week on top of the skill of everything else. Chat is still way behind. We're about 20 minutes behind on the chat. We're going to get to you, but let's do a segment. We call it the unnecessary shot of Rumplements. And boy, oh boy, were there plenty of injuries heading into week 15. Let me, before I start reading this list, throw Zach's comment I've been saving up. So we'll get to this in just a second. Patrick Mahomes, torn ACL. And in my parentheses, I told you guys that they would shut him down for the rest of the season. I'm not making fun of an injury. It really fucking sucks. I love Patrick Mahomes. Just odd timing, as Zach pointed out. Roma Dunze, Josh, ruined somebody's fantasy matchup this week by re-aggravating his foot injury in the
And it was late. And like, they literally announced it 5 minutes before
12:56. Roma Dunze was announced out of this game.
I have so much Roma Dunze in Dynasty leagues, and I'm like scrambling because I'm like, shit, did I start him in any fucking league? Yeah. Oh my God. Like, oh yeah.
Bam Knight, as I mentioned, ankle injury. He was the starter for the Cardinals. They're now describing it as a bad sprain, negative fantasy points. Luther Burden, ankle injury. Christian Watson goes out with a chest injury. Micah Parsons, we don't always talk IDP, but when it's a guy like Micah Parsons, torn ACL, he's done for the season. Woody Marks in and out of this Texans game, eventually out with an ankle injury. Devontae Adams, hamstring. Immediately they said his week 16 was in jeopardy because it's a Thursday game. Devin Neal also goes out with a hamstring injury, and Devon Vele, shoulder injury. Normally, we wouldn't be talking about Devin Neal and Devon Vele, but it's the fantasy playoffs, and it's late in the season, and they're starters. Both of them disappointing this week, though Devin Neal did find the end zone. But, Josh, it's so funny that Zach brought this up because he said it was the first thing that went through his mind. It was literally the first thing that went through my mind. I do not wish injury on anybody, and, again, I am not a Mahomes hater. I love Patrick Mahomes. But I said, if they lose this game, they're probably going to shut him down. Turns out the Chargers took care of that for them. And Josh, the reverberation here, Travis Kelce, say what you will about him, has been a top 5 tight end for most of this season. Rashee Rice had been a fantasy savior. Kareem Hunt had been a bit of a touchdown revelation. I don't think you can start a single Kansas City Chief moving forward.
Yeah, this is going to be a challenge for Andy Reid, first off, to get the best out of Gardner Minshew, because we've seen Gardner Minshew be good. We just haven't seen him be good in a while. This is why he was displaced by Aiden O'Connell with the freaking Raiders. Like, exactly. He's just not good anymore. I want to believe that Kelsey can still be average because of where he works within this offense.
Yeah.
I want to think that Rashee Rice can still be a top 30 wide receiver because of where he works in this offense. And they get Tennessee this week. It's not like Tennessee's that good of a defense.
Yeah, we just saw what Brock Purdy did, and I mean,
I'm saying.
Brock Purdy's better than Gardner Minshew. Don't hear what I'm not saying, but the weapons in Kansas City are better outside of Christian McCaffrey than the weapons in San Francisco.
Yeah, like I'm out on Kareem Hunt, and that's fine, right? Like, he hasn't been efficient at all. He's been very touchdown reliant. Gardner Minshew's not going to be able to move the ball down the field the way that Patrick Mahomes has. And even Patrick Mahomes has struggled. Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
It definitely makes me worrisome. I'm not ready to just outright say I'm benching them all together because, quite frankly, you probably don't have better options.
I mean, that same league where I lost Devontae Adams, Rashee Rice is my wide receiver 1. So,
yeah, like your 2 and 3 probably aren't,
I can't. Well, I don't know if I'm getting Drake London back. I can't start Stephon fucking Diggs. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, right. Like I got a little cocky and started Kayshon Boutte and Scott Fishbowl, and I'm just like, yeah, that came back to bite me in the ass.
Yeah.
I knew I should have started Devon Vele.
What's funny is I'm more worried about 2 of my teams that were on bye last week than I am about some of the teams that played.
Yeah, right.
They do things change quickly in week 15 when I didn't have a game.
Yeah.
I agree with what you're saying. My biggest concern here, Josh, is, and we saw it in this game, everything Patrick Mahomes has done for fantasy managers over the last season has been with his legs predominantly.
Yeah.
Gardner Minshew, sometime about 4 years ago, stopped running the football. He is a statue compared to what he once was. And I don't know how well the Kansas City offense is going to function when a quarterback won't run the football. So,
yeah, definitely don't love it.
Yeah. Quick reminder, we'll jump back into the chat questions here in just a second. If you like what you're hearing, hit that like button. If you want to hear it again next week, hit that subscribe button. This show will go on for 2 more episodes, with the final episode being our way too early mock draft. So every Monday at 11 up until the Monday after week 18. If you happen to be listening to Apple or Spotify, hit that follow button. We appreciate each and every one of you that tunes in every single week. We do have Super Chat if you want to throw us a little bit of money, and a completely free Discord if you want to talk fantasy. Link in the description of this video, and Josh is dropping it in the chat right now. Back to the chat. Trone, such a pleasant morning now that the Cowboys can stop pretending they had a chance to make the playoffs. Trone, I didn't know you were a Cowboys hater. I missed that somewhere.
Oh, love this.
I'd say I knew Josh was.
Oh, fuck the Cowboys.
Yeah. Truth, you've been waiting for a while and you were a new name. I hope you're still riding with us. Week 16 flex question, Josh, and tight end. So we got Michael Carter versus Atlanta. That is Michael Carter, right? Is it Arizona versus Atlanta? Yes, it is. Aaron Jones versus the New York Giants. Luther Burden against Green Bay. Jalen Coker, the Cokeheads, out in force this week. Parkinson,
the only wide receiver that did anything for the Panthers this week.
So let's start with the flex, Josh. With Bam Knight dealing with an injury, Atlanta hit or miss against running backs. I mean, everybody on this list is very risky, because it would have been Aaron Jones pretty easily for me, but he was super disappointing this week too.
Yeah, they seem to get him pretty involved in the passing game at least, but again, Cowboys' run defense has gotten good since the trade deadline. They've gotten healthy. They acquired Quinnen Williams. So it really wasn't that surprising that Aaron Jones kind of struggled this week.
And Jakari Koski-Merritt found the fucking end zone.
60 and a touchdown. Exactly. Yeah. So I think this is a week where Aaron Jones kind of becomes that dude.
Yeah.
We've also seen Green Bay secondary get toasted.
Yeah. I want to know more
Luther
about.
Burden has sort of like started to shoot up the ranks a little bit. I know that DJ Moore had a baller game this week. Maybe Rome Odunze, they hold out.
Oh, I think 100% Rome Odunze. I think they shut Rome Odunze down for the season. So
I mean, I don't know if I'd go that far, but I do think
they are. They're very much in a hunt.
They're holding on for dear life. But I think with how Luther Burden has played, with DJ Moore looking like DJ Moore again, we know they utilize the tight ends. The running backs are looking fantastic.
So good.
Rest them again this week. I understand this is a must win, but that Green Bay defense took a huge hit with the loss of Micah Parsons. This is kind of between Burden and Jones for me. I think Jones is probably the safe floor. Burden's the ceiling.
And I think we're going to say the exact same thing about the tight end. Parkinson's the floor, Waller's the ceiling. But Josh, as of right now, I'm going Parkinson. Even as much as I've been talking Waller,
I do want to see how Darren Waller looks tonight.
Yes.
If he comes out and is a fully featured part of this offense, then I might lean Waller here. But as of right now, I'm going Parkinson against Seattle.
Waller's tonight. Truth, we go live again tomorrow for our waiver show at 11 and again Wednesday night at 9 p.m. If you can jump back in, we'll have a lot better information for start sits later in the week. Drone said everyone on his team went off. Nico, Olave, Barkley, McLaurin put up 150 points. His opponent only has 82. As much as I want DK to go off tonight, Josh, I don't see him scoring 78. I think Trone is very safe.
Yeah, no, DK's not scoring that.
I remember this question from last week. Has Dart but dropped Emmanuel Wilson for Love before kickoff? Dart has the Vikings. Love has the Bears minus Watson. Also Bo Nix out there on waivers. Josh, I'm telling you, there is something to the Vikings shutting down quarterbacks. I am sitting Jackson Dart this week.
Yeah, go ahead, Bo Nix.
Yeah, Denver.
And of course, I say that, and he's going to put up 15 points this week instead of 30.
Well,
but
he gets Jacksonville this week. That defense has been blah.
But you know what, though? What's made me, when I'm looking at Bo Nix's schedule, look at the games that he has balled out. It hasn't always been against, fortuitous defenses.
No, it hasn't.
It's been must-win games. It's been games where they're losing and need to come back to win.
And he needs to stand up to the quarterback across the field from him. So
exactly. It's just like, for lack of a better term, it's a dick measuring contest, right? That's Bo Nix right now. And he's whipping it out and just saying, I got this, bitch. Like, I pick up Bo Nix. Fuck it.
Yeah. And then Fantasy Lab, just to add on to that, should we view Love and Cousins as saying Love and Cousins in the same sentence did not go how I thought it was going to. Should we view them as streaming options with the injuries they're dealing with right now? Atlanta has Arizona, obviously a defense you can throw on. And then we just talked about Green Bay has Chicago, a defense you were supposed to be able to throw on. I'm not going to read a ton into the Cleveland Browns struggling against the Bears.
It's Cousins for me.
Yeah, I think
he's actually looked competent, which goes to show you he clearly was not fully back from the Achilles last year.
He was not fully back. I also wonder in his first start this year, Josh, if they tried to run the Michael Penix game plan with Kirk Cousins and that didn't fit. And now that they're running the Kirk Cousins game plan, shit's working. So
yep. Well, and that was the big thing last year was like, with Zach Robinson in place, Kirk Cousins in Atlanta didn't make any sense because they run so much pistol.
Yeah, exactly.
Kirk Cousins doesn't do that. Michael Penix does. That's the offense that he came from in Washington. Now they've kind of switched gears a little bit and said, Cousins, we need you to run your offense and what you're comfortable doing. And he's looked comfortable doing it. I'm not putting too much into this game against Tampa Bay simply because he torches Tampa Bay. He has the entire body of work against Tampa Bay.
Well, plus there's the whole primetime Kirk Cousins angle that he kind of eschewed this week.
Yeah, so I'm fine with Cousins in a good matchup, and that's exactly what Arizona is.
Yeah. Charlene points out that she may actually survive Bijan and Pitts. She's up by 60, and all they have is the Steelers defense. So I hope you do.
That's awesome for you. Love that, Charlene.
Yep. Started Lamar over Purdy, and Josh, this was the one. I'm pretty sure Quincy asked this. I could not make up my mind on this, and probably.
Well, and Joe was very much Lamar, and I'm like, I'm telling you guys, Lamar's not Lamar, and Brock Purdy's got a good matchup.
Yeah.
This is what and Quincy, I'm not trying to call you out or anything on this, but this is the problem with a lot of fantasy pundits and a lot of fantasy managers. We pay too much attention to the names and the history that those names have brought.
And I'm going to give you that. But let's not pretend the Bengals shouldn't have been a good matchup. Lamar has just
they should have been 100%
routinely this season. So,
but what has Lamar done this season that makes you think
routinely?
And that's what I'm getting. It's the same thing with Justin Jefferson. He hasn't done anything in 2 months.
And again, I had been down on Lamar. Lamar was my QB 17, I think, last week when he went off because I'm an asshole. But I didn't. I played into the matchup, and a buddy of mine actually talked me out of this because he said, look what Lamar did against them on Thanksgiving. Why do you think he's going to be good this week? And I was like, that's a really good point. So I backed up a little bit, but unfortunately, I had already given the terrible advice to everybody when I came to my senses. Tron said, Dart did look good this week, but you better look good against Washington, plain and simple.
It was a good matchup.
Keenan, do we think MHJ comes back? Josh, it's real interesting because there's no incentive to bring him back.
Literally none.
Except seeing him with your new franchise quarterback.
Well, and that's the biggest thing here is like, yes, as a second-year player, Marvin Harrison Jr. needs reps, plain and simple. Like, he's not his dad. He's a very different player from his dad.
Exactly.
And for 2 seasons, he has not lived up to the draft hype. So he needs reps. But are we sure that, A, this head coach is going to be the head coach? If he's still the head coach, are we sure Drew Petzing is going to be the offensive coordinator?
Very correct.
Because if Gannon's out, you can bet your ass that
Petzing's out without a doubt, yeah.
By all measure of anything, Kyler Murray's gone. He's not going to be the guy. So what really is the incentive to come back? Because, Brissett's probably not going to be there next year, especially if Petzing is gone.
Okay, I was going to say, I think
if Petzing is gone,
there's no incentive to keep Jacoby Brissett around.
Exactly. If you're Arizona, you invested a top 4 pick. You know and you believe what Marvin Harrison Jr. is capable of. Why are you trotting him out here to die?
Yeah.
I don't see the incentive.
Yeah, let's be clear. Right now, Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison are this organization.
Exactly. You need to protect them at all costs. Trey McBride is not hurt. So, you're going to keep playing him. You're not just going to be like, sorry, buddy, take a seat for the next 3 games.
Yeah, he might sit week 18. So.
Yeah, week 18, he might sit. All right, fine. But with Marvin Harrison Jr., as long as he's dealing with these injuries,
don't bring him back.
Don't bring him back. Don't risk it.
I'm always on that side. Quincy asks quarterback question. Has Brissett and Lamar, would we drop Lamar for Trevor Lawrence? I think the fact of the matter is, yes, obviously, Josh, but you're also starting Jacoby Brissett this week against Atlanta. Yep. Don't get caught up on Trevor Lawrence's points from last week.
Correct.
And then we'll end with this one and come back into the chat in a little bit. Who the hell in Arizona saw Jacoby Brissett and Kyler Murray and was like, yeah, Kyler Murray is our guy.
They looked at Murray's paycheck and said, yeah, Murray's our guy.
But Josh, I think about this all the time because I've been on the Cleveland situation this whole season, and I said the same thing, but the fact of the matter is they weren't even giving Shedeur a legitimate chance. But it's like, how did you look at these 3 quarterbacks, Joe Flacco, Shedeur Sanders, and Dylan Gabriel, and not immediately give the ball to Shedeur Sanders? And it was mismanagement then. I won't call Arizona flat out mismanagement because you're right. Kyler Murray was established as their guy years ago. But my God, Jacoby Brissett, I wish he was 5 years younger. 32 years old. This is going to be fun for maybe one more season, but I like this guy a lot. I really do.
I want to bring this one up from Freak 1750. Yes, I understand that Brissett's on a 2-year deal. How many times do players actually finish out their contracts for starters? Now, I'm not saying that Arizona is going to outright cut Brissett. That's fine. They could very well end up moving on from Kyler Murray if they end up high enough and they could get one of these top quarterbacks that they believe in. Maybe they keep Brissett for the next year. Fact of the matter is, we know that Brissett fits so incredibly well in this Petzing, Stefanski branch, Cleveland style offense.
Yeah.
That's really where his home is. If those guys aren't there, he doesn't have the same value. He's just a veteran presence.
I think, there's a very good chance that if the cards fall right and they're able to get a young quarterback, that Jacoby Brissett doesn't even get a chance to start next season, which is,
or he starts the first half of the season and then gets benched, and that because again, that's just what will happen to these veterans. So
no, that's a really good point. All right. Let's get into the shot of espresso. Obviously, it's a little bit different show sheet this week, so it sounds like we're way behind, but we're actually not that behind. But these are the quality of performances that got the juices flowing this week. As always, we do some honorable mentions. Bo Nix, Brock Purdy, J.J. McCarthy, Travis Etienne, Tyrone Tracy. As a reminder, we don't mention the players who were supposed to do good, so like Amon-Ra St. Brown isn't on this list. Tony Pollard, Cortland Sutton, DJ Moore, Jalen Naylor, Jawan Jennings, Adonai Mitchell shows up. Brian Thomas Jr. finally shows up. I found it hilarious. Brian Thomas Jr. and Ricky Pearsall make this list after they don't get anybody into the playoffs. Dallas Goedert, Colby Parkinson, Dalton Schultz, and Gunnar Helm quietly making a name for himself down in Tennessee. Josh, you're going to kick this segment off with the Bears running back, DeAndre Swift, who has just really had a quietly great season.
Yeah, we talked about it in the offseason that his ADP was so criminally low. Like, what are we doing, people? Which, again, made sense pre-draft, as in pre-NFL draft, because everybody expected Ben Johnson as the head coach to come in, draft a new running back. Well, he did. It's just he didn't do it. He didn't do it until round 7. So that kind of made DeAndre Swift safe. But then his ADP wasn't moving. And then it finally started to move. And it was like, okay. But still, like, it wasn't high enough. Like, people weren't valuing him as a top 20 running back, knowing that Ben Johnson wants to run the damn football. He was RB7 this week against a good Cleveland defense, but also this good Cleveland run defense just got shredded by Tony Pollard. They get shredded again.
I just want to throw out there, I made this exact comment when we were talking about Kyle Monangai. I said, Tony Pollard beat the Browns. That's not Kyle Monangai's role. I was like, DeAndre Swift is going to be the one to benefit if the Browns truly suck. And I was right. So.
There you go. Swift was RB7 this week, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's RB15 overall in the season, RB13 in points per game. Hey, thanks, George. Appreciate that. And this is just it. To me, it's just going to be a really interesting thing going into next season. And that's really why I wanted to bring this up, because we've seen DeAndre Swift in Ben Johnson's offense and then literally get shipped out the next year.
Absolutely. Because
Ben Johnson fell in love with a certain running back. Well, in Detroit, that was Jahmyr Gibbs, and then they traded DeAndre Swift to Philadelphia. Comes in, he does well here in Chicago. I don't know how deep this running back class is, but I do know Jeremiah Love is sitting there, and there's maybe not going to be a lot of teams that are going to value him in that top 10, top 12, where he probably is in terms of overall talent in this draft class. Bears aren't going to be that high in this draft. So, maybe there's another guy they fall in love with, but how are you, Ryan? And I want to ask you specifically this, because you were very much on that DeAndre Swift hype train heading into this season. How are you looking at DeAndre Swift going into 2026? Because I believe that's going to be the final year of his initial 3-year deal that he signed with Chicago.
Yeah, if we're talking like dynasty, I still view him as risky because we've seen Ben Johnson throw him away once already. Mm-hmm. And I was concerned about that going into this season, but then when they did nothing, I was like, okay, we're cool. To me, it's going to be, what do they do? I don't think they're going to attack free agency. I think you have Monangai, you have DeAndre Swift. It's going to be a question of Love or if some other running back, I don't know the college game as well as most, if one of those guys just appeals to Ben Johnson. But there is a non-zero chance that Love or some running back is so great that DeAndre Swift ends up in some committee or ends up shipped out again. So right now, I would be viewing him as a risky RB2. I would not be buying high on him in Dynasty.
All right, and I want to bring this up from Sergio. Whoop, not that one, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Because I think it is a good question. Or are we starting Swift this week against Green Bay? Because I am. I'm not seeing any reason not to at this point.
I mean, RJ Harvey found the end zone. Swift is playing a very similar role to RJ Harvey, except with far more volume and efficiency. And DeAndre Swift is that offense, plain and simple. I know DJ Moore cooked this week. DeAndre Swift is that offense. Kyle Monangai takes over inside the 5-yard line and has a couple of decent things here and there. As DeAndre Swift goes, as that offense goes. So
yeah, and honestly, Swift is. I feel like this is the version of DeAndre Swift that a lot of people saw when he came out.
His first 10 games in Detroit were fantastic.
So. He was scoring a lot of touchdowns. And then it became, well, we don't want to give him a featured role. We don't want to give him, more than what we think that he can handle. And then after he leaves Detroit, goes to Philly, then, ends up in Chicago, he's starting to see the workload. Like he's starting to be able to handle the carries and still brings that level of efficiency that we all saw from him, coming out, like thinking, college game can do this, etc. So I'm kind of on this train of like, let's stop doubting DeAndre Swift.
Yeah.
And let's just believe that, you know what? He's worked through the humps, and this is the guy that we all thought we were getting. It's just 5 years later.
Yeah. I'm going to let Charlene jump the line real quick. Long-time listener here. Offer came in 10 minutes ago, Josh. Dynasty League got offered CMC for Dowdle and 2 firsts. If I can get CMC for 2 firsts right now, and it puts me in a spot to win the championship, this is worth it to me. But if it does not put me in a spot to win the championship, Josh, I'm not making this deal.
I'm not. Yeah. So this is what I'm going to say, Charlene. Ryan is a very much a fuck them picks. I only care about what happens this season.
1,000%.
I still would not do 2 first-round picks for a CMC,
and
even
Caesar
if it was going to
jumps
give me
in
a
and says too
championship this year.
So yeah,
because that is so incredibly pricey for a 70 or 29-year-old running back that is likely going to fall off a cliff next year because of the number of carries that he's had.
The Freudian slip to call Christian McCaffrey a 79-year-old running back is my favorite thing to happen.
Bro, he's literally dealing with back problems because he's not only carrying the 49ers offense, but he's carrying so many fantasy teams right now. Like,
see, Charlene says she'd be putting CMC into her flex and trying to win a championship, Josh. I mean, obviously anything can happen on any given Sunday.
Yeah, like Dowdle, a first,
counter,
maybe a second I would do.
Counter, get rid of one of those first and turn it into a second. You're going to win a championship this year, so let them take the 26 first. Counter with that 27, turn it into a second, and then run away with that deal.
That's just like they're feeding on you need this to win, and
100%.
Like,
by the way,
all about win now moves.
I'm gonna take my thing here to talk about my players real quick, but I want to throw out to the chat because Josh and I actually had a fight about this in one of our dynasty leagues. How do we feel about playoff trading in dynasty? Because I think it is the most disgusting thing ever. I hate it, and I straight up told Josh that they will have to kill me from being commissioner in one league if they want to see playoff trading. I just want to hear the chat chime in while I talk up Mr. Travian Henderson, Josh. Obviously, everybody saw what he did this week. 14 carries, 148 yards. Not one, but 2 50-plus yard touchdowns. His 4th of the season, 50-plus yard touchdowns, matching your boy, Saquon Barkley, as the only rookie to do so, and some guy from the 60s whose name leaves me right now. But, Josh, what I'm seeing from Travian Henderson, and let me preface this by saying they are very different players, certainly in usage. But, Josh, I'm getting all the vibes from Travian Henderson that we got from Devon Achane, that he can score from anywhere on the field. And when they continue to build this lineup around him, I think Travian Henderson is screaming league-winning potential next season, Josh.
I wouldn't even go so far as to say league-winning potential because you're going to have to spend a top 2 round.
You think so?
Draft pick
you think,
on
yeah,
him.
you think he's going to
100% you will, because regardless of whether Ramondre is there or not, you're now seeing this is what Travian Henderson can do.
What I found interesting is, 6 touchdowns over the last 5 games, but 3 kind of dud rushing outputs in there. 7 touchdowns. I missed the receiving touchdown. You've kind of seen the dud rushing outputs, but then you've seen just 2 bookended, 147 and 148. And then, Josh, we've seen the targets tick up a little bit over the last 7 weeks. I'm pretty sure he has more targets in the last 7 than he had in the first 9. So,
yeah, his receiving usage has been really up in the air. And again, it's just I don't get it. Joe in our NPI chat was just going off on the play calling from Josh McDaniels, where all they want to do is throw the football, and it just really doesn't make sense when the guy's running so well. Like, give it to him on the ground. Let him do what he needs to do. Let him eat the clock, because he's going to burst the long one. I mean, he turned a literal 2-yard loss into a 63-yard touchdown run. That's how talented this kid is. Yeah. Just give him the damn football. Build your offense around him touching the football. everything else will fall into place.
And then because our buddy's not here, I want to give the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and namely my favorite player, just a quick shout out. I was talking people out of starting Mike Evans, Josh, as you're fully aware. I have Mike Evans in just about every league you and I are in together. I did not start him in one of those leagues. But 6 for a bill 32 on his first game back. How do you not love Mike Evans? I'm so sad that the 1,000-yard streak is over, but I'm more hopeful, Josh, that I'm going to get at least one more really fun season out of Mike Evans before he rides off into the sunset.
Yeah, I was definitely surprised at this one simply because of the way that they eased Chris Godwin back in. It kind of made me think they would ease Mike Evans back in. Yep, that was wrong.
Yeah. Like I said, my guy for sure. Very, very happy. I see all the questions in the chat. We're going to get back to the chat right now for some of the new names in there. But yeah, I just, with Jay not being here, happy to see Mike Evans come back and prove that if you gave him 10 games this season, he'd have hit that 1,000 yards. And we're all worse off for it. So
yeah, it makes sense.
George brings up, I missed this. I don't know where I was. Apparently, Kevin Stefanski gave Shedeur the wrong wristband for the game.
Man, they're really just trying to sabotage this kid. Shit.
I was going to say, this is criminal for Kevin Stefanski at this point. Might be time for old boy to go.
Well, I think that's probably the case anyway. So
yeah. Do we have content planned for week 18 in the playoffs? So we slow down quite a bit come week 18. So the Tuesday show obviously goes away. The Tuesday show goes away after week 17 because you're not doing waivers. Week 18, this show will do a very early mock draft, and then the Monday show goes away for a while. But here's the good news for Keenan and anybody who's just now tuning in. The Wednesday show is 52 weeks a year, 9 p.m. Wednesday.
Well, I think we're skipping the week 18 show this year just because of scheduling purposes for
the
us.
Wednesday show is 51 weeks a year.
Usually it's anywhere between 50 and 52. Sometimes we have,
but we're almost always on Wednesday, and Josh does such a great job of a content plan. So like our January, February, all that is almost always already mapped out. We'll start getting into rookies. We start by reflecting as to what we did wrong last year. Club Fantasy is all about accountability, so you're going to see a lot of accountability shows from us in January and February, and then we'll start sliding into the rookies and bringing in really cool guests and all that kind of fun stuff. DFS. Josh normally takes over for me, but Austin has talked me into doing DFS playoff slates this year for DFS Academy. So that show is going to continue to drop every Friday. The initial plan is going to be, so we run everything like normal through week 18, because week 18 DFS, if you've never played, is the funnest shit on the planet because you are going to start starting people you never thought about playing in fantasy football. And then, much like what we did for the Thanksgiving show, we are going to do for the wild card round a Saturday slate and a Sunday slate show. And then we're going to treat every round after that as a main slate show. So you're going to get plenty of DFS content out of us, but specifically me, Josh, and Joe, Wednesday nights, other than New Year's Eve, we're going to be there for you. Nothing to be worried about. We buy homes is Hampton to start, non-PPR, if Quinnen Williams doesn't come back, Josh, as we've been talking about that Dallas defense. Great against the run as of late.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember because I feel like he got hurt in the middle of this game or was out this week too or something along those. I feel like I remember them talking about that on the broadcast, but I don't know that he's a start. I just think you're lowering his floor. I mean, he could very easily fall into the end zone. I mean, I was down on Hampton. Or not down on him, excuse me. I was higher on Hampton against Philly because without Jalen Carter, their terrible run defense has struggled.
Yeah.
But they did just fine this week against Hangxiety and the Raiders. So, but again, it's the Raiders. But Hampton caught a receiving touchdown. So like they're using him in a lot of different ways. It's not just, run up the gut and do those types of things. So, the best way obviously to attack the Dallas defense right now is by throwing the football. Justin Herbert and that hand injury, I understand it's on his left hand, but he hasn't been comfortable.
He's looked weird.
And that passing offense has been really not great. So I think he's sort of that like low end RB2 in my opinion.
Exactly.
And then even in non PPR in these standard formats, obviously you want a touchdown. he has that upside because of who he is and how he fits in.
And the fact that they're, like you brought up, they're using him more in the receiving game, which is helpful as well. So,
yep.
Zach calling for the chaos. He wants Brissett to the Raiders, Winston to the Vikings. Just get better quarterbacks on these bad teams. I think that'll be
I was going to say, if Pete Carroll sticks around, I could very easily see Brissett to the Raiders because he loves a veteran quarterback. So,
yep. I'll be interested to see how they handle Geno Smith. Christopher, would we play Rashee Rice going forward or Abuka? I think this is such a great question. He did end up picking Waller up for next week. So, man, Waller better not pull. Who was the guy? Who was the Sincere McCormick? We were hyping that dude so hard last year for week 16, and he fucking sucked. I hope that is not this year's case with Darren Waller. But Josh, Rashee Rice versus Emeka Abuka. Obviously, this show has been down on Emeka Abuka for a while now. So,
who do the Bucs have this week?
Tampa Bay has at Carolina.
Well, I mean, that's kind of a must-win game for them, obviously. Both of them tied atop the division right now. With Mike Evans looking the way that he did, I think he's probably going to see a lot more of J.C. Horn in that offense.
Kansas City gets Tennessee, which is also important. So.
Yeah. I think I'd probably still go Rice as the floor play, and I think Abuka is probably the ceiling play.
Yeah, Abuka, 7 targets this week, obviously outshined by...
And that's the thing, he's getting the targets. He's just not converting them into anything.
Yeah, exactly.
And in terms of Wilson, I'm guessing that's Garrett Wilson, and I don't even think they're going to activate him.
Nope, I cannot see a situation... I got to bring George up here in a second. But I do not see a situation where Garrett Wilson plays again this season. Nick, new name, 19 points down, has to play either DK or Jalen Warren tonight. Not feeling great on either one. I will say someone else previously pointed out Jalen Warren hit with that late questionable tag. Josh, I'm going DK Metcalf here. So
yeah, I think I'd go DK. I mean, depending on your format, 19 probably is the ceiling, for DK, seeing especially what he did last week, 7 for 148. Jalen Warren, it's the splitting time with Kenny Gainwell that I think lowers his ceiling quite a bit.
Why force a hurt running back to do a lot when you have a capable backup?
But you know what's a fun stat that I pulled right before the show as I was researching our underdog props. Miami is the stingiest defense to fantasy running backs since week 10.
Interesting.
Yeah. They've allowed only 1 rushing touchdown to running backs since week 8. And that came in week 8 against the Falcons. And it wasn't even Bijan that scored it. It was Tyler Algier. But they faced Derrick Henry. They faced James Cook. They faced Breece Hall. None of those guys got in the end zone. There
you go. So might be a tougher matchup. And then I'm going to throw George up here before we get into my playoff question. He says you remember us hyping up Zamir White. I'm guessing that was
probably right after Josh Jacobs signed. And
yeah, I was going to say, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Josh, I asked the chat about playoff trading. Most of them are on my side. George says it's scummy. Fantasy Life said it's diabolical. But someone did bring out, Fantasy Life brings up collusion. Someone said if it's fair, Zach, then he's good with it. I just feel like once we're in the playoffs, let's just ride with the roster.
Well, and I look at it this way, because again, it's a dynasty league, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to have some teams that, were fighting for a playoff spot. Maybe they got left out. Somebody in the playoffs loses a Patrick Mahomes. They lose, the upside of a Rashee Rice, whatever. And
they're willing to pay.
Man, I built this team to succeed, blah, 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 etc. Trade maybe an injured player, to a team that needs some, draft capital, whatever.
And that's
what I'm saying. Those are the kinds of trades to me, because again, it's a dynasty league.
George called it preying on the weak, but Josh, you actually say it's the other way around. It's the weak preying on the strong when they need them. So.
Precisely. And that's really the way that I look at it, because you might have, I'm sitting in one dynasty league where, I've got AJ Brown. The team needs a massive rebuild. I want to give him to a contender.
Yeah.
Because he's not doing anything for me.
Yeah.
So I need to be able to flip him into draft capital, a young asset that maybe, might need a year or two before they pop, right? That's how you need to approach it. It's not let me give you AJ Brown for a 3rd round pick.
Yeah,
that's not what the trading window is open for.
This whole conversation started because Kyle Pitts is out here winning leagues on the losers bracket in a lot of leagues. So
exactly.
Freak brought up they traded away T. Higgins for RJ Harvey a few weeks ago. This is about a dead even ass trade for me. This is getting better at different spots. Woods Girl asks, we try to get Colby Parkinson or just hang on to Jake Ferguson? Josh, I'm fine with moving on from Jake Ferguson.
I'm 100% fine with that. Yep.
Yeah, Colby Parkinson should be in a good matchup. And then Sergio asks, is it time to give up on Bucky Irving? I'm not even worried about Bucky Irving. Obviously, he was a bit of a letdown this past week, but this Bucs offense is just now stepping into their own, Josh.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Bucky. I think Atlanta's defense is pretty schizophrenic, and they just, decided they wanted to stop Bucky this week.
Yep. All right, we're going to put the chat on hold for a little bit. Actually, I'm going to throw a comment up here as I read what I'm about to read. So it's time for panic or chill the fuck out. And with us getting towards the end of the season, we're kind of focusing more on next season. And Josh left it blank, and there was a player that I was debating in my head about all day yesterday. And most people are not going to like my argument here. And I'm completely fine with that. And I honestly can barely defend myself, but I have some fun stats. And so Josh, I wanted to start this off with Joe Burrow. And I made a trade a few weeks ago where I moved out of Joe Burrow in a dynasty league where I thought I was trying to buy into contention because I didn't think he was coming back this year. I picked up Michael Penix, Kieran Williams, and one other player. I don't even remember who it was. Rashad White, because I have Bucky Irving. And so the goal here was get a little younger at quarterback, but more importantly, get Kieran Williams. And none of it worked out for me. But Josh, I had ulterior motives there because I'm going to be perfectly honest. I do not see Joe Burrow as the fantastic asset that the rest of the world does. So here are what I found, Josh, and then we can talk about panic or chill the fuck out. Career record, and I know this doesn't matter for fantasy, but you're going to listen to me anyway, is either 41-32 or 46-33. I couldn't find a definitive source of truth on that, but regardless, it's 60% win percentage. This season, Cincinnati is 3-2 with him as quarterback, 60% win percentage. In fantasy, he has missed significant time in 3 of 6 seasons. In his 5 starts this year, he has 75 fantasy points and 8 touchdowns. Jake Browning in 4 starts had 56 fantasy points and 7 touchdowns. Joe Flacco in 6 starts had 133 fantasy points and 14 touchdowns. Over his career, Burrow has just 2 top 5 finishes, and I've pointed out numerous times the issues he has with sacks and turnovers. I'll give that he's probably still a decent dynasty asset, but in redraft fantasy football, Josh, where I can't really mitigate the Joe Burrow risk, I do no longer believe he is worth the draft capital that Joe Burrow commands on a yearly basis. I am in full panic mode with Joe Burrow as a fantasy quarterback.
So this is kind of what we discussed when we were doing all of our off-season shows, right? It was, you have the top 4 because they offer, solid floors as rushers and then some level of high ceilings as passers, right? It was Jalen Hurts, it was Jaden Daniels, it was Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen. And then you get into that next tier of guys that are really good as quarterbacks throwing the football, but maybe don't have that same kind of rushing ceiling. And the conversation typically starts with Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
And then you get into, well, Baker did this last year. Can he, keep that going? And I was very much on, Baker's likely going to regress, and he has. And a lot of that is, been with the, injuries at the wide receiver position, but it's also been with issues on the O-line. Well, what's something that Joe Burrow's had for a long time? Issues on his O-line.
Certainly.
He overcame it last year.
Certainly. Best season of his career.
Yeah. But that's kind of the problem, is that type of stuff isn't consistent year to year. So while Patrick Mahomes kind of started that high, really regressed over the last 2 or 3 years, popped back up this year because, of what he's been able to do as a runner. I'm with you. This is very much a, why spend up for Joe Burrow when I can wait 6 rounds and get Dak Prescott, right? And that was my whole argument with George Pickens. Why am I paying up for T. Higgins when I can get the production you want from T. Higgins 5 rounds later? Look how that's working out, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing here. So I'm with you. Like you're paying so high, you're paying for the ceiling, and if the ceiling doesn't hit, you are fucked. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
You are fucked. So, and that's why it just goes to show. This is why we wait on quarterbacks, people.
Yeah.
Like right now, the only quarterback that I want to pay up for, because I feel like he's been doing it for 8 years now. Josh Allen. That's it.
Yep.
Everyone else, Daniels, Hurts, and I love Hurts. But Drake May is going to vault himself into that conversation next year. Maybe he's worth the price. Maybe he's not. But right now, the only one that I do know is worth the price until the wheels fall off is Josh Allen.
Yep. And that's just kind of where I stand. My best friend's a Cincinnati Bengals fan. I'm a bit of a Bengals hater just because I always need to be an antagonist. But like, I was watching Joe Burrow yesterday, and I understand he's been brilliant in some games. But Josh, I saw what you saw. He looked despondent. He looked down. He threw those 2 picks. Just overall, I'll end with this, and it's not a statement I should just mic drop with, but I'm unimpressed with Joe Burrow, and we'll just leave it at that.
How dare you?
Right? But Josh, you bring
he
up
still has Jamar Chase, though. Let's just remember.
Let's be clear. Sometimes bad quarterbacks can still be good. But Josh, you also bring up Breece Hall, and I'll let you make your argument on this one.
Yeah, I mean, this really kind of went to how much I liked Breece Hall heading into the season because of the type of offense they were installing. He was going to see a lot of run. But then, of course, they're the New York Jets. We knew this matchup was going to be a struggle against the Jaguars, But when you're leaning on a rookie quarterback, a not good one at that.
Yeah.
Your best offensive player only touches the ball 14 times. Make it make sense.
Yeah.
And not only that, the backup scores a touchdown. Make it make sense. This is how bad teams stay bad. This guy is a free agent heading into this year. Why would you not want to either ride him till the wheels fall off because he doesn't fit with your plan going forward because you need to get younger and running backs don't age well? Why are you keeping him in a cage?
Yeah.
This is what I don't understand. Like, Breece Hall has been pretty adamant that, he wants to remain a Jet. He sees the future, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, Garrett Wilson got his contract. Of course, so did Sauce, and then he got traded. So, maybe there's just like, if I'm Breece Hall and seeing what this organization is doing, why would I want to re-sign there? I guess is really my biggest question. But I have 2 legitimate questions that play into how we view Breece Hall in 2026, but also in Dynasty, because he's still a fairly young running back, even going into his second contract. If he re-signs with the Jets,
that's my problem.
How are we viewing him?
If he is with the Jets, insanely, he's an RB2 because I trust nothing that organization's doing. But if he goes to a real team that will run the ball, he's easily an RB1 still, because we've seen those pops that he still has the talent. He's just getting beat into the ground in New York.
And the problem is that their offensive line actually is pretty decent.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have that bottom half offensive line like they used to. Like, they have talent there. And that's where my question is like, if the offensive line is good and they still can't create holes for Breece Hall, is it a Breece Hall problem?
Could be.
Because we see this with quarterbacks too. Like, they hold the ball too long, they get sacked, they get rushed. That's a quarterback problem.
Absolutely.
So why are we not thinking that maybe this is a Breece Hall problem?
To where he goes to somewhere else and he's just as bad and I look like an idiot. You're
and that's
right.
Kind of where I'm at. Like, we've seen 4 years of this, like, the talent's there, the talent's there, the talent's there. But we only see flashes. We don't see consistency. And I understand bad organizations make you project and all these other things. Yeah. Like that. And this is where, like, I'm at this, like, Breece Hall fork in the road right now, because I've been so high on Breece Hall, and I have a lot of Breece Hall in Dynasty because I would take over these teams and I would tank and I'd get these high picks. And now I'm riding with these guys. I'm riding with Bijan. I'm riding with Breece Hall. And I'm at this point now where I'm like, is it time to bail? Or fuck, am I just going to ride this through and we're just going to sink? Like,
let's see what happens.
I'm the captain and we're going down with the ship kind of thing, you know?
Yeah. It's interesting because I'm far less panicked on Hall than you are. And it's interesting.
But
Josh,
are you as invested in Breece Hall as I am is the question.
I'm not. And Josh, I think this actually strategy-wise opens up an opportunity for you and folks like you. I am not as bought into Breece Hall. I never had the picks to get Breece Hall. But now that you're done with him, you have suckers like me who will pay for him. And I think you're probably in your sell window. And Josh, I think it's an instance where you actually hit a great point here. I did this with Trent Richardson all these years ago, where I did not believe in Trent Richardson. When he got traded to the Colts, I sold him for a king's ransom. If Breece Hall ends up somewhere else and you don't believe, Josh, if I'm just going to use Dallas because they're always the example we use for running backs. Obviously, Javonte Williams there. But if Javonte Williams is gone and Breece Hall is the Dallas running back, the payment you're going to receive for Breece Hall, I think, outweighs anything you get by holding him on your roster. I think the best thing that happens to you, Josh, is Breece Hall ends up elsewhere. So
I love it.
I was just saying, Zach, we do this.
Zach, you have no idea how many times Ryan and I have made trades where
the negotiation
more often than not, it's me fleecing Ryan for something, but he
100%.
tends to get a championship or something out of it. Yep. So it pays off, at least in the short term.
I have learned, Josh, honestly, it was the Travis Kelce trade with you that was one of the worst trades I've ever made in history, but I got George Pickens back. And then now the Joe Burrow trade with Austin. I am the worst dynasty trader ever. Like, people have to love when they see my ass come into a dynasty because
anytime I see Ryan with multiple first round picks, I'm figuring out who I can.
I am so bad. I mean, I win championships, so it works out for me somewhere. But trading wise,
that's because
awful.
You play dynasty like redraft.
I 100% do.
Yeah.
There's no denying it. All right, Josh, the show's went forever. Monday Night Football. Sign up for Underdog with promo code WAF. You'll get up to $1,000 bonus and a free pick for your first time deposit match. Gator didn't even give us any picks this week. It's the Dolphins at the Steelers. I'm sure he'll drop something into the chat a little bit later. Gator has been killing it. I just want to be very clear. You guys want his picks. I have not been killing it, and mainly because I don't research this enough. I have too much shit going on Monday. But Josh, I did find one I like. Darren Waller higher than 26.5 receiving yards. The Steelers are actually the third worst team against tight ends this season. They have allowed over 60 yards per game to the tight end position. And Waller has hit this number in 2 of his last 4 games while kind of like coming back from this injury. So for me, I like Darren Waller to be a focal point of this offense while Devon Achane is a little bit bagged up.
Yeah, my pick is Jaylen Warren lower than half a rushing and receiving touchdown. So basically, I don't see Jaylen Warren finding the end zone here. I mentioned a little bit earlier in the show, Miami's allowed only 1 rushing touchdown since week 8. I believe the game before that was when they got wrecked by Quinshon Judkins and gave up 3. But yeah, from weeks 9 through now, they have not allowed a single running back rushing touchdown. And again, they faced Derrick Henry and James Cook and Breece Hall. Like, they haven't just faced cupcakes. They've faced really good running backs. Only 1 running back has actually topped 53 rushing yards on them, which is Jaylen Warren's rushing line, 53.5. James Cook only hit 53 rushing yards against his rushing defense over since week 10. So there's some lines here where I'm just like, this is really interesting. Really good. Here. Because you would think, given the conditions in this game, this is probably going to be a pretty heavy running back game. But the lower on Jaylen Warren's touchdowns really just boils down to, will Kenny Gainwell get that opportunity? Because they pivot to Kenny Gainwell quite a bit when they're inside the 10, inside the 20.
Absolutely.
So it makes it feel like it's a really risky line here. And maybe you want to just stay away from it altogether, but I'll take the lower here.
I also think there's a situation where maybe he hasn't done shit, but Jonnu Smith in a quasi-revenge game gets to come in here and do something. So we could see that. Jay mentions he texted me his picks. Sorry, buddy. I'm terrible with that.
Well, and I texted you back, Jay, and I said, drop them in the show sheet and let us know which one you want us to highlight, and you didn't do that. So don't come in the chat with this bullshit. Long story short, hop in the Discord and you'll get all of Jay's picks. So
boom. And that's where we're ending it. We're back tomorrow at 11 for week 16 waivers, helping you guys get through the semifinals. That's it. We'll see you guys next week.